Okay, today we want to, or this week, we want to think about what the authors of your textbook call material, which is sometimes referred to as materialism. Anyway, it's kind of the archaeological look at culture, because it's the material things that are passed around, used by, thrown away by cultures. And what we'll talk about mostly, especially in your quizzes and so on, is reciprocity, which is the key element in material in the living cultures, in the ethnographic cultures, because it's the material that well, it includes everything that is material, which is food, which is obviously essential, and it includes tools, and it includes entertainment items like kids' toys and paintings on walls, and as you'll see, parties, festivals, all of these things. And what the archaeologist sees is a very impoverished version of this, because in the living cultures, as you'll see in your textbook, there's a huge complex set of ideas goes with all these things, and how they get exchanged between people that are within classes and people that are in different classes and that sort of thing. Then your study guide this week, well, you'll see I'm trying to kind of parse these things out a little bit so that you can get a handle on what happens when things are exchanged horizontally, let's say, between people that are in the same class or in the same group, same community, or when they're exchanged across class lines. So if the exchanges go between people in the same classes, well, they're kind of equal value. Like, there's a lot of talk about 60 tortillas in this chapter, because that seems to be kind of the unit of economic measure in Nuyo. But Duro is a much more complex society than Nuyo. Nuyo we call an egalitarian society, where everybody's kind of on the same level. You could just call them townspeople, and they trust each other because of their similarity of class and everything. But when you get to Duro, where you find a much more crowded society with lots of customs, and an interesting story is told about how somebody is invited from a more upper class town, the capital of Bima, and when the person from Bima gets there, he doesn't eat anything, and you need to be thinking about why it was that he turned down all this food and preparation that he didn't partake of. And everybody was a little bit mystified. The anthropologists couldn't figure out what was going on. The people in the village of Duro couldn't figure out what was going on, but they know what they wanted. They wanted this guy to eat so that he would be obligated to them. And so you should look at those sorts of relationships. And as you go on into the chapter, well, you'll find out that there's quite a bit of that sort of nuance going on around these material items.